Hey guys, what's up? Eddie Aho here with kissanalog.com. Alright, so today we're going to continue testing this Aiyima A07 Max. And I'm going to do some Bode plots, and I'm going to do it at different input levels to see, what we'd hope is the gain will be the same across the frequency band, so they should be right on top of each other, no matter if you're putting out, like an input signal to get 1 watt out, or say 96 watts, something like that. So let's go ahead and jump into this. It's going to be a little bit of setup, and then we're going to get into the test. And the next amp will go faster once I got all this worked out. All right, so here, let's just do it. All right, guys, so we're about 96 watts. We have 39.17 volts peak. Take the RMS of that, V squared divided by 8 ohms. So that gives just the shade under 96 watts, okay? And it's been running for a long time at that point, and it's pretty darn hot. I can't keep my hand on it very long, only a few seconds. It is hot, but it seems to continue running, and it's been there for about a half an hour, I'd say. Both channels putting out that wattage, so it looks like we're good at that power, okay? Now we're going to talk about power and stuff later, but let's just continue with our testing, okay? All right, so now this is what the spectrum looks like at that power. Now every time it pops up, that's when we have those little, delays in the signal, and then it goes back to reading the signal. So now it's going back, and it has to average. I did 3 averages, and you see the numbers up here. They actually look a little bit better, right? So when we average, that's about as good as they look, okay? Okay, guys, so now what we want to do is we want to lower the power down to 1 watt using the generator, because we're going to sweep the generator from the max power, which here, let me show you. All right, so minus 5.75, that's what gives us that 1 volt RMS input. Now remember, it's because we're doing the differential, the generator's about putting out half that per side. So because we go across the whole differential plus minus, we get the 1 volt, okay? So that kind of messes up the math. We're going to figure that out later. So let's go ahead and drop this down to minus 15. Let's go 10 dBs down, okay? Let's see what we get on the output. Now we're waiting for it to average, so what I think I'll do is I'll take away the average right now. Speed this up. So now we have 18.8 dB, and we want about 9 dB for that 1 watt, I believe. So let's drop this down. So amplitude, we'll just drop it here. All right, that might be a shade under 1 watt. So we'll go shade over, okay? Let's see how we increase that. Yeah, 9.25. Okay, let's go look at the scope, see what it looks like. All right, there's the scope again. Now, let's see. The red one, I mean, I could amplify these signals up so we could see what we're looking at, which I guess I'll do. Okay, the blue one is the input signal, and it's pretty low now. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go plus minus 1 volt. So the input signal, the blue one, yeah, it's way down here, but there's a little noise. That's why it didn't like going to the plus minus half volt. But yeah, there's actually a little bit of noise, right? I mean, you see the switching, I think, frequency on the, it's kind of interesting how where it's going. It looks like it's riding along, that's off and then off. So yeah. Now the red one over here, let me bring this signal down right about there. Yeah, we're a little bit below the 4 volt peak. But you know what? I think that's about 3/4 of a watt, okay? So we're going to increase that just a little bit. Okay, let's come back over here and see where we're right here, almost 10 dB in, 9.26. Let's go up to a little bit higher. See where that took us. Okay, I'm going to go maybe closer to 10 dB, 9.86. Let's go look at the scope again. All right, so yeah, that looks like it's got us there. So I can go into this window right here and I can just say 4 volts peak, because that's kind of what we're looking for. That line right there, we're so close to it. I think if I notch it up, I'll probably go right over. So we're pretty darn close. So we're going to call that 1 watt. And now let's find 10 watts, okay? But before we do that, we want to look at the generator output for what we're going to call 1 watt. All right, mine is 2475. Okay, that gives us about 1 watt at the output, okay? All right, guys, so one thing I want to point out, see the THD? It's 0.29, pretty low, right? But with noise, it's 0.26. And we saw that noise writing on the waveform, right? Because now we're putting in a real small signal. We have so much gain that it's increasing the noise level up too. So it's amplifying noise plus the signal. So now our signal noise is only 51.6. That might be where we want our input to be a little bit higher, so we don't have to, if we're playing real low noise levels, or if we're playing music at real low power levels, we're going to get a little bit more noise amplification as well. So yes, signal noise dropped. Okay, now let's go see if we can find something in between. So we have minus 5.75 and then 24. So we're going to say, 19 in between. So we're going to take off 9, okay? And we'll see what we get. We'll go 15.75. We'll see what power we get with that. And let's look at this signal right here. We're going to look at the power first, and then we'll come back and look at this. But let's just see. Okay, signal noise, improved. THD plus noise is closer to THD now. But now THD went up. So isn't that interesting? Okay, so let's go look at the scope. Okay, we got to get a little more signal here. All right, so here, I'll move this window out of the way. Okay, I'm going to move the red one, the output, to the top of the signal, right about there. And I'll move the blue one to the top of its signal, which is just a little bit lower. Okay, so the blue one looks like it's about 0.4 volts, about almost half the 1 volt peak. So maybe it's about, a third of the 1.4 or something like that, the peak of the full signal. 11.67 volts. Let's go back to the analyzer. Okay, and it shows 18.91 dB, right? Let's see what that is in volts. Okay, that's about 8.8 volts, guys. So that's interesting. That's about 8 watts. Okay, we're right at about pretty close here. Let me just calculate that. So it's about 9.7 watts. Okay, so we'll do a measurement that right around 1 watt. We'll do one right here, the 9.7, and then we'll do one at the max, which was, now I forgot what that was. Was it 98 watts? Something like that. I'll put it right here on the screen. I forgot. All right, so just to remind myself, I got to hold the key down. Okay, so mine's 15.75 dB. All right, guys, let's go back to the scope real quick. I want to read the voltages. We can see this here. I just want to see what the real voltage is, we calculate the real gain, and I'll show you that. Okay, so here we are on the scope, and I'm going to try to capture, I'm going to capture that screen. This measure, we want to do RMS of A and B. Let's do A and B. Now, I want to show you something. So this is a whole trace, but I'm going to do between rulers just to make sure, because I want to make sure I see what I see in between here. So, okay, I don't know if it changed, but we got about 3036. So let's see, if I pull the rulers all the way over to the edge of the screen, so we get as much precision as possible, because I just want to make sure that I'm seeing what I see. 306.1 millivolts and 8614. All right, guys, I think we have our 3 voltages at our input so we can set up our generator now. Let's go back to that and let's get going. All right, so we're going to start, we're going to start doing some testing, okay? So let's go ahead and close this. Okay, we're going to turn off these. I don't think it matters at this point, but we're going to start measurements. Okay, guys, so let's go up here to the automated tests and, oh, shoot, crosstalk. You know, I need to set up more probes, like measurable channels, I think, for crosstalk. Amp dynamics. Okay, this is our frequency response, our FR, this is our Bode plot, essentially, right? So we're going to start at minus 10. We're actually going to start at minus 24.75. And we'll stop at that minus 5.75. We're going to increment by like 4, I think, 4 dBs. We'll get a number of measurements, okay? 20 kilohertz, 500 hertz per step. We're going to drop this down to 300. And I'll make this 5. It's not going to be equal steps, so I'm curious how that's going to handle that. So let's try that. This is the Aiyima. Now, guys, I'm going to speed through this so it'll go faster, but pay attention to the signal crossing the screen and watch which ones move with it. They're the harmonics of that signal. So they're a function of this signal. They're the harmonics of this, and that's the THD up here. And then we have a higher THD plus noise because, see, these guys that are not moving with that signal, this is the noise, okay? So it'll be more obvious when I speed it up because you'll see them, you'll see the harmonics moving along with them. You kind of see them come out of the grass here. This is the grass, all this noise, I guess. So you'll see these harmonics right here, these odd harmonics. See this one 3 times more, 5 times more, so on. All right, guys, so that is our test results. Now, okay, it's showing gain over frequency. Now, we know it has that hump out here. We saw that with the Omicron, right? So at 20K, it's kind of ramping up to do that resonant thing. And it's going to resonate out here somewhere and then drop off. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy how, you know, from 10 to 20K, we have that much gain difference. So, anyway, so it's from 10K to 100 hertz, it's really flat. Now, from 100 hertz to about 20 hertz, it's dropped just a little bit. I mean, this is a half a dB across this full frame, so it's only a quarter of a dB. And from here, it's about, you know, half a dB, because this is about 1 frame, right? Maybe a little bit more. So, but yeah, at all the different gains, it was really similar, right? I mean, at all the different inputs, the gain was very similar, but it wasn't exactly the same. So that's maybe not ideal because you want the gain to be the same, you know, as your signal goes up and down. So it shows that your gain is changing. Now, these are all the same color. How do I change that? Okay, we'll change the smallest signal to that dark turquoise, okay? And then trace 3, I'll leave trace 2 blue. Oh, trace thickness, okay, so that's thickness. Let's go to, so trace 1 is going to be that kind of brownish. I made the thickness different. So let's go to the next one. We'll leave that one blue, the same thickness, and we'll go to trace 3. Let's change that to this turquoise, kind of dark turquoise, okay? Okay. And then we'll go to the highest amplitude one, and let's see, let's make that a red. So there we go. So you can see that the lowest amplitude, this brown heavy one down here on the bottom, has this lowest gain. I mean, this is just small fractions, right? Because it's a half all the way across. So it's like 0.1 dB gain. So, you know, from this, there's about 0.1 dB gain, which, you know, it's interesting that this one right here had, the one in the middle had a kind of a gain increase, and the one on the end, the other three are all real close. So it seems like this one right here in the middle is the only one that kind of changed. That's kind of interesting. Okay, for the title, we're going to call it Aiyima 07 A07 max gain versus frequency, right? All right, so hey guys, I just reran that test because you know what? It's so funny. The USB voltage down here, it was in the 3.5 volt range or something. It was red. This panel is red. And I don't know why it finally caught my eye. You guys have probably been yelling at me, but anyway, so I plugged it into a different USB port, and now I reran the test, and look at this. And also I spread this out. Look, 34 dBs at the bottom, 35 at the top. So now we have 1 dB across this whole screen. So it's 0.1 dB per grid, okay? So now at 100 hertz, we drop down 0.2 dB to 20 hertz. I mean, that is way better. And look how the main thing is regardless of the input signal, they're all on top of each other. Now they do kind of start separating a little bit right through here, but still it is a fraction of a dB. It's 0.1 dB from here to here. So I mean, we're, you know, just a fraction of dB that we're starting to break apart from, say, barely starting 1K to 10K, and then we do have that gain, but now it's, you know, 0.1, 2, 3, 4, so half a dB to 20K. All right, so yeah, most of us can't hear that anyway. Even most young people cannot even hear that. We just say 20 hertz, 20 kilohertz is human because some people can, but I think most people are around 12 dB, right around in here. All right, so anyway, there we go. That looks much better. Okay, guys, I just ran a test. I'm going to show you the test I ran. I forgot I didn't have my screen recording, so we're going to redo it. But anyway, so before, the test we just ran was from this point to this point. And so these curves looked a lot worse than what they would if you're looking at a Bode diagram zoomed out like this, where you're looking at the whole thing. So now I'm going from 1 hertz to 100K, and we see that resonant ramp at 20, 30, 40, you know, out here, right? So about 45K probably. So anyway, and then it drops off like a brick wall. So we saw that on the Omicron, and we saw that on the Omicron. And so now I just reran it on this. So I'm going to show you how I did that. And I ran it at minus 10 dB because that was a default. So what I did is came up here, and it's called the chirp test. It just does it really quick. And so here it is, minus 10. So there's all the settings you can plot if you like to. So, okay, let's go ahead and do it. And it's done. So that is a fast one. So we can add to the existing graph or do a new graph. I'll just do a new graph so we don't. Okay, now see, it came by default, it came this way, okay? So I'm going to change these parameters here. So we're going to go on the axis here. Okay, on the max, we're going to go 45 dB. Min, we're going to go, what were we, 15, I think, something like that. And then let's find the X. So the X on the min, let's drop down to 1 hertz. And then on the max, we'll leave that the way it is. So there we go. So that's how you set up that window, and then you can change the title up here and all that. Okay, so that's that test. It's just it does it really quick, and I just did it at minus 10 dB, which is probably, it's somewhere between, I don't know, let's just say 20 watts, somewhere around there. Okay, now let's go to the next test, gain and distortion versus amplitude. Okay, this is a great one because it looks at the amplitude and does distortion. So let's just do this and we'll see for ourselves. Okay, we're going to start at minus 10. We're going to actually start at minus 24.75, right? And you know what? So I'll go minus 25, just round it off, make it easier. And then we're going to stop at minus 5. Well, we're going to go minus 6 because minus 5 is going to be a little bit more distortion. So it's 5.75. We're going to go call it 6. And then we're going to, well, shoot. Now we have this odd thing here, right? So let's make this minus 24 instead. And then we'll do 5 dB increments. Okay. Test frequency 1000 hertz. Okay. Plot is gain. We'll plot distortion. Let's look at the second and third harmonic as well. Okay, and let's go ahead and do it. Okay, input level range adder, 18 dB. I'm not sure. Actually, guys, I'm not sure what I'd do with this one. Let's just say we're not going to add anything to it. You know what? I'm going to start with 0. Let's just do it. Oh, must be greater than 6. Okay, so let's... Oh, I see. I think it offsets this. Okay, let's go 6. Wow, that was a pretty fast test. Okay, let's see what that showed us. All right, well, that looks interesting. So we have gain, and then we have THD is the red, and this orange one is the second harmonic and third harmonic. Okay, so second harmonic's, you know, even harmonic, so it's not going to be bad at all. Look, it's way down here. And the third harmonic is this black one, and it's most of the distortion, which makes sense because it's by far the biggest distortion spike. Okay, so this is all the different gain values between minus 10 and minus 20. So it drops down like this, and then it goes up. And so, all right, so the gain right here is right across this screen right here. Okay, so you see it right at the top. It's pretty flat. But the distortion, here, I'm going to go a little bit higher on this gain. All right, I just made this gain 20 so we can see this blue line. It's just hovering right across there. So the gain is right across there. Okay, so as the input level right down here changes from some low value to up here at max value. So at low, it's kind of higher. And then right down here, about minus 14, it's about the best numbers, and then it goes back up and gets the worst at the highest amplitude, right? So that's the way the THD kind of goes with your level of your input level. And the gain, you know, that offset thing, I think that, yeah, I got to look into see the gain right there. Okay, it looks like the gain at the low input level is right here. Now, that's what's weird, this offset. You know, that offset that it asked me to put in, I think that's what that offset was supposed to do, is offset this so it'd be like the value we know that it is, like 34. So I should have probably stayed with what value it put in there. But essentially, if we just ignore this, this is the only thing we really care about. This is it's 0.2 dBs per little hash mark, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So it's changing a very small fraction of gain on this side, right? Let me see if I can change this to 0. Okay, so the gain over here, I just spread it out. Okay, now I could go, instead of 20, I could go 15. Okay, and then I could go 5 down here at the bottom. And now we can stretch it out. So right here, it's 10, 11, 12. So it starts off right around here. And now we're 0.2 dBs per. And you can see how it just, the gain changes a little bit as the amplitude goes up. It kind of drops. And as it gets, the amplitude gets pretty high, then the gain drops a little bit more. Okay. All right, guys. So that's an interesting curve. That we would ideally like this to be just totally flat, right? No matter what the gain is. Okay, guys, I changed the grid on both sides. So now we can see, you know, from 5 to 15. So it's only 10 dB change through here. And we can see the gain, you know, I mean, I could stretch this out even more if we wanted to. All right, guys, so now I really zoomed in. We got 10 to 11 dB. So it's 1 dB this full scale. So it's 0.1 dB per line. So guys, it doesn't even drop 0.2 dBs, about 0.1.5 dB to minus 14. And then as our input goes up to our max power, then it drops down 0.1, 2, 3, you know, so it's like a half a dB. So the gain, this blue line, we would like to be totally flat, but you know, it's off a little bit. So as a signal, you're listening to some low music, you got more gain. Then as it gets louder, the gain's less. So, you know, but it's fractions of a dB. Okay. So now all these other colors, the red is the total THD. So the THD is going from about minus 42 or something, drops down, gets better to minus 48 maybe, and then goes back up to minus 30, gets worse. Okay, most of that's going to be the third harmonic that's following it nice and close, and then this second harmonic, you kind of see it's got a little bit different curve. It's down here pretty low. So all these harmonics added up would, the ones we can't see, would add up to this red one. So this is THD and gain versus input level. And I got to remember to put the Aiyima here so I can keep it separate. All right, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, you know, okay, so I did figure out the USB thing. I actually did a bunch of these tests when I did the other one, but I just got to it in this video. So, you know, I had to break it up because it's going to be too long video. So, what do you guys think? Let me know what you think of these measurements. If there's something I need to do, whatever, let me see your input, right? All right, guys, thanks for watching. 2 big thumbs up to my patrons, my members of my channel, and to Danny for being a team member. Thanks so much. And for anybody that's hit that thank you button, I don't think that's happened for a little bit, but yeah, there's a super thank you button where you can buy me a cup of coffee, beer for Rant Friday maybe. You can become a patron for as low as $1 a month. The link's down below. And yeah, so appreciate it, guys. Become a member. The little buttons down below. Member of the channel. And yeah, so, and then you can support the channel for free just using the links down below to buy, you know, whatever links I have down there, or just give a thumbs up. That helps. Subscribe. Thanks so much. All right, we'll see you next test.